Welcome to Ease in Real Life, the podcast where we embrace joy, authenticity, and peace through all of life's ups and downs. I'm your host, Kijana, and each week we'll explore practical tools, real stories, and meaningful conversations to help you create a life that feels lighter and more aligned. Hello, welcome to another episode of Ease in Real Life. I'm your host, Kijana. Welcome back. Thanks for coming. Today we have a very special episode. It's an interview with my friend Rach Junard. The interview is all about nervous system regulation. A little bit about Rach. Rach and I met at a yoga teacher training workshop many years ago, maybe 8 or 9 years ago. Rach is truly an incredible individual. Some of you may know her as one of the co-founders of You Good Sis, which was an amazing collective that was based here in Boston for Black and Brown women, a wellness collective, really one of the first of its kind that I ever saw. And we will be having the other co-founder on next month. You may know her as a yoga teacher, although she's not based here in the Boston area anymore. She was in the Boston area. She's now over in Portland, Oregon. Rach is a mental health expert. I'm claiming it for you, Rach. She's a mental health expert. She's been an advocate for many years. She's now in school on her very last leg, finishing within the next few months to be a clinical therapist. And she's a somatic, trauma-informed practitioner. And she currently is working, I believe the name of it is the Sakura Center. I probably should have looked that up. However, Rach has an incredible Substack, which I will absolutely link for you guys here in the episode description. So definitely check it out. And yeah, that's it. That's my intro for Rach. Let's get into this interview. Hope you guys enjoy.
Just wanted to double check. Okay, but let's try. Hi, Rach. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so happy to see you.
I'm so happy to see you too. It's truly been forever.
Yes.
I'm thinking maybe the last time that I saw you was at one of my yoga teacher trainings, maybe in 2021 or 2022.
Yeah, that sounds correct.
Yep. So what's new?
Oh, so much. Truly so much. I don't even live in Boston anymore. I live in Portland, Oregon. I'm finishing up grad school. I'm just doing a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. But yeah.
I mean, you're always doing a lot of stuff, so that's not new.
That is true. That is actually not new. I feel like anyone who knows me, I'll be like, yeah, I'm not busy. And I'm actually doing 4 different things in the background.
I actually don't
but
know
that is my normal.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. No, you're always up to something, which is one of the many things that I love about you and that I feel like we've been connected on over the years. But I mean, okay, let me just back up and say today's conversation is obviously about nervous system regulation. That's going to be the bulk of what we talk about. And when I was thinking about this episode and thinking about who I wanted to talk to, and I always kind of go to my network and I'm like, who do you think would be a good person for this conversation? And realistically, you were the first person who popped into my mind as soon as I thought about it. But, I was like, let me go to the network and see. And so people kind of kept coming back to me and everybody that people were recommending, I was like, no, I really want to talk to Rach. And then I said to Lee, she had recommended a couple people. And then I said, I was thinking about Rach. And she was like, done. Yes, that's the person. Yeah. So I'm so glad that we got to have this conversation and that we are getting to have this conversation. And so that the audience knows, you and we met through a yoga teacher training workshop many years ago, probably sometime around 2017, maybe.
I think it was 2017. Yeah,
that feels right. And we just kind of hit it off, probably as 2 of the only Black girls in the room.
Oh,
Uh,
100%. I saw you and I was like, oh, black
yeah,
girl, let's
friends.
go.
Yeah, like did the nod, and I just
Yes.
come over. It's like
Yeah.
we've known each other for 10 years. Like that's
Yeah.
just what
Yeah.
it means to be a black woman. But yeah, so like connected because we were like two of the only black women in the space or black people in the space, and just like hit it off. And as soon as we met, you told me about the many things you were working on, and obviously there was so much that you were doing that I resonated with and really admired. And I feel like literally since I've known you, you have prioritized health and wellness in a way that honestly I don't I don't know that I've ever known really anyone else who has. Like you are the
Mm.
friend who is always going to a workshop or a retreat or a training to better yourself, to better your mental health, to better your foundation. And I know you had done yoga teacher training obviously prior to that workshop because it was all certified yoga teachers in the room. But do you feel like yoga teacher training was what kind of like set you on to this path of prioritizing wellness, or was it
Yeah.
something else?
No, I definitely think it was the yoga teacher training. I also was just working a stressful 9 to 5 job at the time because I worked in politics. Um, so everything about going through that teacher training was just like the antithesis of my day to day. And I also was getting I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, I really like went full fledged into like the wellness world. Like I was making my own kombucha. I was vegan for a bit. I was meditating every day. I was collecting all the crystals. I was trying to just grasp onto like every single thing
You
just
would
to try to
literally
ground
come to a
myself.
yoga class with like a little satchel of
Yes.
stuff, and you
Yes.
would undo your mat. You would take out your
Yep.
crystals, your little herbs. Like you are that girl, like from
I really
day
was.
one.
I really was. So yeah. Yeah. It was kind of wild. And now I would say that's like toned down. Like if that was one end of the spectrum, I'm like definitely more in the middle. And there's like a time and a place for everything, and I'm glad that I like went full throttle on that. But yeah, I saw this really cool quote a couple of years ago on Instagram about how I don't really actually like doing anything. I'm just like obsessed with it. And I think that is me sometimes with a lot of stuff. I'm just like, yeah, I'll just try it and see. But I have to go from 0 to 100. There is no in between. And then eventually I will kind of land in like what feels good for me.
I love that. Even as you were just talking, I was just thinking of other things that I know you like Akashic records, like something you're like, yeah, I'll try it. And now you're like reading Akashic records and
It's bananas.
astrocartography.
Yeah.
There's
It's a
so
bit
much.
much. It's
Yeah.
a bit much.
It's amazing. It's amazing. No, I think it's
Thanks.
incredible too. And you know there's so much connection with spiritual wellness and our ancestry and our history, especially as black women. Do
Mhm.
you feel like culturally speaking there are some practices of kind of wellness that like actually have been ingrained in you through your culture or like from a young age?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't think of anything from when I was younger, but definitely from my culture, I got really into African traditional religion. So a lot of people, like if you look at this is now I'm getting like super into the weeds, but if you think about Pangea, Brazil and Nigeria are like fit perfectly into one another. So a lot of that culture, like Orishas and Yoruba traditional religion, really stems back to that. So I think when I was probably around the same time as like the yoga teacher training boomed for me, I was like, okay, what about my culture is relevant in this field? Because yeah, I can collect crystals and do like astrology stuff and read tarot all day, every day. But what is Nigerian? Like, what is me? And I
Mhm.
actually remember asking my parents about it too, and they didn't grow up really ingrained in African traditional religion, um, unfortunately because of colonialism. So they were like scared to not really touch that stuff. So it was very much just like you are a Christian or you are a Muslim in Nigeria during the time that they were growing up. They were like, yeah, we don't touch that stuff. Like it's sacred, and it's also like it could get you killed. So something about that like resistance where it's behind a locked door, I was like, well, I definitely want to tap into it. Like I definitely want to know more about it. Like I'm so curious always about the god of water, the goddess of war,
Mhm.
like all of these things. So that is something I have just done my own babbling in. I'm just like, oh, I have this information, I have that information. I have gotten a reading from a Babalao, which is like a someone that you would like a priest in African traditional religion who has gone through all the steps, who has been like sanctified, who has talked, who has been picked by the Orishas, like that kind of thing. And I did that, I think, in like 2020, when I'm sure a lot of us, even though like it was very terrible times, had a lot of time on our hands. So I was just like, yeah, like I'll just hop on this Zoom and do this reading. Um, and I would say from that, like I learned a lot just about like who my ancestors are, like who is in the room with me, who I need to be paying homage to, like whenever I am setting up my altar, if I'm making food and making sure they have enough water, make sure they have like the kinds of food they like. So that actually was really special because I think trying to do all these things like Akashic Records, all these types of spiritual readings. That was just me desperately trying to find a way to connect and
Mhm.
see like where my people are. That is not from like the shit that I see on Instagram with like the
Yep.
sparkles and all that. Like I really wanted to find that information. But yeah, I think it's something that is more also just like readily available now. Like a lot more people are aware of it. And even if they don't like know it fully, they have some sort of knowledge about it and hopefully some respect for it as well.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I do think it's definitely out there more. And I think a lot of the fear around being connected deeply to those practices is dissipating in a great way. I think
Mm-hmm.
with awareness, you know what I mean? Fear
Mm-hmm.
minimized. And so that's so important. But yeah, I love that. And I feel like too, like, I think there's something really interesting, you know, going back to the topic of today's conversation, but nervous system regulation. I feel like in my personal experience, part of my process around understanding how to regulate my nervous system is deeply tied to my ancestry and my cultures. And the more I know, the easier it is to kind of tap into those, you know, ancient practices that we've been using
Mm-hmm.
since the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of time to actually heal ourselves and help ourselves in that
Mm-hmm.
way. But just to
Yeah,
kind of go
yeah.
back, sorry, did you want to say something, Anna?
No, no, I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, I was just going to say,
Yeah,
just to like go back, I kind of want to start by just like breaking down because I feel like nervous system and nervous system regulation are like some big buzzwords right now.
sure.
And I love that for all of us collectively.
Yeah.
And I love when people are like, that's not good for my nervous system. And I'm like, yes, I'm so glad you know that. You know what I mean? I love that we're bringing that to the conversation more often. But what is nervous system regulation actually?
Yeah, I mean, so there are a couple different ways to kind of look at this. I think to your point, yes, there's like a buzzwordy thing going on in the world right now, especially if you just go on Instagram or TikTok. But nervous system regulation is not necessarily that you're always going to be like chill. It's a matter of being able to scale between being super activated to your window of tolerance and then being super dysregulated, whether that's like hyper or hypo arousal, excuse me. So I think we say this a lot in yoga teacher training, or at least in the yoga world, like, oh, you want to do this kind of breath to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, like you're more chill, like your heart beats a little bit slower. I think I read somewhere once that you should be able to only take like 6 breaths in 1 minute. It's like a full inhale and a full exhale, so that it really calms you down, settles you down. So again, it's not necessarily that we're all just chilling in a chill parasympathetic nervous system all the time. It's more so that you're able to regulate between you see like terror, danger, like our brain makes up something. I see a shadow and I think it's a tiger, for a silly example. And I get like aroused in this hyper arousal state of like fear.
Mhm.
And then I see that it's actually just like a cat. And then I go back down to my window taunt. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, cool, cool. Great, awesome. So being able just to kind of scale that ladder. The world of like the vagus nerve system, that is super, and like polyvagal theory, that's super, that whole foundation is nervous system regulation. There's this really great podcast also called Stuck Not Broken, because I think a lot of people are just like, oh, I'm always activated, I'm always this, I'm always whatever. And it's like, no, you're just like stuck there. What are some tools to get you in and out of that easily? And it's simple. I think we're all in this digital age now where I could be having a conversation with you. When I was like working in my 9 to 5 job, could get like a Slack or text or message from my boss that I was like, we need to meet. And of course, I'm immediately just like making up a million things of like what's wrong, what's happening. But I'm sitting here talking to you and I'm just like fawning because I'm just like, okay, I'm in this conversation. I'm not really paying attention. I'm not really listening. And I'm freaking out. Like I'm frozen in the back right here. So, what is a way for me to bring myself out of that system? Probably just naming it like, hey, I just got this message. I'm feeling a little activated. I just need to tell you. For me, that would work because then
Mhm.
I'm able to almost release it, so it's not just this like big pressure behind me, and it's able to just transmute in some way. I'll probably still feel annoyed and activated, but at least it's not just in me. I'm able to like
Mhm.
work through it and talk through it.
Yeah.
There are so many ways to work through nervous system regulation, but I think the biggest part is just understanding what it is and also what it is for you. What my nervous system regulation looks like may not be the same for what it looks like for you, for anyone who has certain types of life experiences. We're talking also like trauma, complex trauma. There's so
Right.
many different ways to work with it and to work through it.
And like, what would you say is the connection between trauma and nervous system regulation?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And also I want to preface all of this. I'm not like an expert, right? This is definitely something I'm interested in and I'm like in school for and I'm studying it.
Yeah, you will be
But
though.
yeah,
You're smart and you got a lot of
yeah,
information. I want to hear it. You're an
yeah.
expert.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, so I, my personal belief, and also like things I've studied, trauma is something that happens to you in a developmental sort of way. So I think the best example I kind of like to use, I practice EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization reprocessing. It is really successful to use techniques like EMDR when someone has been in a horrific car accident and they can no longer get into a car without having a panic attack, for instance. This trauma that has happened to them, this thing has like that has disrupted how they view potentially safety, right? Like we get into a car, we put our seatbelt on, we put our turn signals and we want to go left, right? We see the brake lights and we know to stop. uh, because of this trauma that they've had from this car accident, they are now in a freeze state. They get a panic attack. Their brain immediately relates car to accident, car to trauma, car to horrific thing that might have happened. Even if they walked away unscathed, trauma affects everyone differently. It doesn't really matter, right? Which is why it's like it is very unique to that person.
Mhm.
So I think for seeing trauma and seeing how that relates to nervous systems and how that may or may not regulate, you really have to go to, yeah, the individual. What happened? How does it impact your day to day?
Mhm.
How are you able to, I never like to say move past things, but how do you work through things? Moving past it in that situation for this person, they would probably just, maybe they'll bike, maybe they'll walk forever, like whatever. That's I mean what they do. But they have not necessarily worked through the trauma that is associated with a car accident.
Right.
Using certain tools, yeah, like EMDR. There are so many different types of interventions. There's brain spotting is also, I wouldn't say a new one, but a newer one than EMDR. A student of EMDR came up with brain spotting. And there's like also like neuro mapping. So there's so many different ways to work with the brain to help it associate this trauma is not impacting you in this moment. It is not life threatening in this moment. You're
Mhm.
able to change potentially negative cognitions or associations you might have with certain traumas to just more that people say positive. I think that's like a bit too binary and a bit too toxic positivity, but just to more affirming cognitions. So
Mhm.
instead of when you see this car, I am in danger, your cognition that you want to maybe change it to is I am no longer in danger, or I should have done something to, I did the best I could, right? Being able to look back on this memory and no longer feel as activated as you did. Being able to get into a car without no longer thinking like, this is it, this is the end of the world, I'm done. So I think thinking about trauma and how that affects our nervous system, again, it can really impact people so differently. It could be you could be at a restaurant, and this is not even an example of a car anymore, but that you could be at a restaurant, you could smell something, it takes you back to that place.
Yeah.
Someone could brush you on the subway by accident, and you're immediately taken back into a memory that you were like, I wasn't even thinking about that. But the brain makes shortcuts. The brain has your little neural pathways of this is safe. I can make this idea or this schema of like, yeah, that's totally fine. Or no, this is danger. That is what the brain does. There is no like context. It just short circuits and tells you like, this is good. This is bad. And, also relating to anxiety, this is why we have to tell ourselves, like, yeah, it's actually probably fine, but my brain is telling me for some reason that I'm really anxious right now, that something is going to happen. And I just like, I need a second to put myself back into a space of regulation, to put myself back into a space of window of tolerance. Why am I so stressed right now by this? A good example for me, I'll stick to it for myself. I will wake up in the morning and I won't see my dog, and I'm like, where's Ernie? Oh, he must have gone out of the house for some reason while we were sleeping. And I'm like, yeah, he's probably someone has already snatched him, sold him on Facebook Marketplace. I'm like, why does my brain go there? No idea why. I have never had an experience with that. And then, of course, I see him and all is well. I'm just like, yeah, why did I go to that place? I'm not really sure. But I'm also like, thank you, brain, for alerting me to this. It's actually totally fine. Everything is totally safe. Let me do some breath work. Let me tell my partner, like, hey, I had this really weird thought about Ernie, but he's all good. Fantastic. All great. So again, it affects everyone differently. Um,
Yeah.
and just being able to, again, work with like a professional, a mental health professional, communicate with your friends. I think a lot of times too, and now I'm just going on a tangent, but this is like one of my biggest beefs, I think, with like social media and what it relates to like trauma and how we should be doing things. I put should in quotation marks. um you have to have community to work through a lot of this stuff. I think a lot
Mhm.
of people are working on their anxiety and their traumas alone because I think they are a burden to others. We have somehow gotten away from this idea that things cannot be done in community, that community is only for the good times, not for like the in between, the gray area or the bad times. I promise you, if I'm having this silly thought about my dog and the anxiety, I'm sure other dog parents are as well in some capacity. So letting yourself sit alone in some of these things, I think for me personally, in my opinion, is that it only impacts that thought and doubles down and like allows you to sit in that as opposed again to working through it.
Just to segue, and you did say a lot of things that I want to touch on, but
Yeah.
to segue from that thought, because you talk about co-regulation like in your writing a lot. And
Mm,
as I was reading about it, I was like unsure if this was something that like you've kind of coined as like this is what needs to be
mm.
happening, in relationships and in partnership. But could you break down that whole thought, around co-regulation?
Yes. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, co-regulation is definitely not my own thing. I feel like my definition of co-regulation that I have co-opted and created probably my version of it. But a lot of my ideas around co-regulation come from a lot of like restorative justice work and transformative justice work that we have to be in community with one another. Um, I think there is a time and place also for like self-regulation. Like you have to do some things on your own.
Yeah.
In my internship right now, working with couples for therapy, you do have to regulate on your own sometimes without regulating without your partner. That is so
Yeah.
real. Like if you think about um, a metaphor I kind of like to use is okay, we all live in a cooperative building. We all have resources in the cooperative building. Sometimes you have to go still though to your own house. It may be on the same street, but you still need to go to your own house, your own space to gather your resources to then
Mm-hmm.
come back to the co-op, to the shared space.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think about co-regulation in that way, I am working and being alongside people that not only do we share the same values, but they are willing to challenge me at certain points of like, hey, I wonder why you said this. I wonder why you did that thing. Like, what was going on? And also, they're someone that I view as safe. I can come to them to do some breath work with. I can come to them to also go to a protest with. I can come to them to have just a casual dinner. These are people who are constantly soothing my nervous system and vice versa. There's this new-ish terminology around neurodiverse love languages, and one of them is parallel play. So I could be in the same room as my partner, not doing the same thing. I'm like sitting at the dining table, building my little Lego set. She is playing her video games on the couch next to me. That is sometimes enough for some people with co-regulation. Other
Mm-hmm.
times they literally like need to be holding your hand walking down the street. They want to be sharing a meal, they want to be in conversation, just talking about their days. That's a way to co-regulate and find safety in another person. To know that this space, this physical space is safe, and also this like metaphorical space is safe. I love co-regulation. I love talking about it. And yeah, I just don't, I can't see a path forward without including other people in my life. Always. That's been my number one.
Yeah. I'm also like a community kind of like I always say like I'm an oversharer. Like I
Mm-hmm.
probably talk too much, you know what I mean? I talk too much about what's going on, but I certainly can't imagine not doing it that way, but I do have
Mm-hmm.
friends and people in my life who like by the time they get to you, I'm like, why are you telling me this now? You should have shared this with me 6 months ago when this, you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean, started or something like that. Um, so I appreciate that you are really expressing how significant it is to have community, not just because it's a good thing to have, it's good to be in community, but because it's like our health depends on it.
Mm-hmm.
Our
Mm-hmm.
success at being humans depends on it. I feel like a lot of what you were saying earlier also, I mean, nervous system regulation clearly is like trauma informed care, you
Mm-hmm.
know, in a
Mm-hmm.
big way. And I think it's so funny because even as you were saying, like you were talking through the car experience, my immediate thought, I was like, what about the people who are like carrying past life traumas and they've got
Oh yeah,
past life
absolutely.
traumas that they don't even know what it is yet? And you're, you know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? But what are some of the kind of common ways you see unregulated nervous systems show up?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is so good. So the orientation that I like to kind of use in one of my wheelhouse for therapy is Gestalt therapy, which is its whole purpose is that we have unfinished business, that we are constantly repeating a cycle, in that we are trying to finish our business, but in reality, we never do because an interruption happens, whether it's of our own doing or environmental interruption, or yeah. So when I think about people walking around with unregulated nervous systems, we're constantly trying to chase or achieve something that we know, I think deep down, we know we actually can't get, but we're just like, if I try it just this way, I'll just keep doing it again. But in reality, you are actually just doing the same pattern. You're just doing the same process. And in Gestalt therapy, it's not necessarily that my role as a therapist, or even my role as just someone who is a student of this, and I'm recognizing the patterns in myself. It's never my role to sit there and be like, okay, now this is what you should do. I am just sitting there as a therapist telling them, I'm noticing this pattern. Do you notice it too? Bringing awareness to the cycle then creates awareness for the client, for the person across from me. Awareness then leads to choice. You can
Choice.
keep doing this if you want, or you could try something different.
Mm,
And then from that choice leads to change. So awareness, choice, change.
love that.
Everything that we are in like impacts us, and we also impact it. So therefore, I, to get like a little metaphysical here, I am in this house right now. I am impacted by being in this house. The house also impacts me. I am on this call with you right now. We are impacting each other, having this conversation. If I didn't have this conversation today, maybe I wouldn't be impacted. I don't know. I'm not sure how I'm going to feel after this call. I'm sure I'm going to feel great. But not having this call, right? Like there's certain things that impact us. So thinking about folks who are walking around all the time, and I'm not to say that I am even like a regulated person on the day to day. There
Hmm.
are certain patterns that I'm definitely doing that I'm like, yeah, girl, it's coming from an unregulated place. Like, what are you doing? What
Hmm.
am I chasing? What is that? What is this like small developmental thing that I maybe did not get fulfilled that I am now chasing that constantly? And I am so aware of some patterns, and I'm also like really unaware of some other ones. A lot of it comes down, for me at least, and I think for a lot of folks, it's just interpersonal communication. We don't know how to talk to each other. We don't know how to tell people exactly what we want. We just assume everyone is a mind reader. And this is a huge generalization, and I know that, but I also do it as well. I
Hmm.
will not say something to someone because we had this like one weird interaction. I'm just like, oh, okay, I guess I'll just like go about my life and never bring that up again.
Exactly what you mean. Yep.
Yeah, and like and we do that, and I'm aware of it. And
Yeah.
then I'll just kind of be like, okay, but now I'm getting to a place again where I'm like sitting with that awareness of why do I do that?
Hmm.
What am I fulfilling in myself for repeating certain patterns? Okay, what would happen if I don't fulfill that pattern? What's on the other side of that? What would it look like if I actually just said what I felt? If I actually just was like, hey, you said this thing, I just want to get some clarification. What did that mean? Because I'm feeling a little weird about it. Yeah, just wanting to know how that lands for you. I promise you, the first couple times you do this, people are gonna look at you like you have like a third head growing
Yeah.
out of your ear or something, because no one talks like this.
Yeah.
No one talks like this. No one is walking around with their heart open and aware and willing to be like, this is what's happening for me. What's happening for you? I want to know that. I want to see how you are also being impacted by these worlds, or this world rather. But yeah, I think there's a way to note that like all of us are probably walking around with some sort of unregulated trauma, excuse me, nervous system, and because of trauma that has impacted that. Um, and sometimes like in certain spaces when we feel totally safe with someone, that goes away. Like of course, if I'm talking to you versus someone I just met off the street, I'm probably going to act differently.
Yep.
That's fine. That's also like a safety thing. Our brain is like, maybe I don't overshare in this reality with this person I just met, but I will overshare with you because I know you. We've known each other for a while. That feels safe to me. That feels comfortable to me. When we first met, the black girl nodded, like, okay, hey, what's up? Like, yeah, there was safety in that.
Yeah.
There are
Yeah.
certain things that have told us, like, this is okay.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so not to say that there are two types of people, but just more so there's one type of person and we all are made up of certain types of things. And sometimes there are some folks who are just maybe more unregulated than others or more regulated than others. Yeah,
Hmm. Or maybe just more or less self-aware because
so true.
I think a big part of what you're saying here is like it's happening to all of us all the time. We're
Hmm.
always constantly being impacted by our environment, by our fellow, humans and all of that. And so it's a matter of self-awareness. And, in addition to kind of taking that step back to ask those questions, right? To stop and say, why am I feeling this way? Or, this is how this is coming up for me. How is this coming up for you? Are there other kind of like quick, and maybe quick isn't the right word, but like accessible ways that in a moment someone could, where in a moment where I've identified, oop, I'm activated, that I can, you know, try to bring that activation down. Obviously, with the awareness that it's not a one size fits all kind of.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, hmm, yeah, I'm going to like three different or 30 different places actually in my brain right now. I would say, um, for those of us who are in a space of wanting to become more aware, what's happening in your body and can you get to that place? A lot of the reasons why I would say folks are just unregulated or dysregulated, we're not in tune with what's happening with us in that moment. Um, and yeah, I'll totally take that for myself. Like when I first started with yoga teacher training, I was going once or twice a day to go to yoga. For what? For what?
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, yes, I gotta move my body. I gotta get all this stuff out of me. I was only allowing myself 60 minutes to be in my body. And even then, I wasn't really in my body. I was just like, I have to sweat. I have to get this out. I need
Yeah.
to transmute this in some way. Um, so if you notice, like in a moment, someone says an off comment to you, and you're just immediately go to a headspace of like, I didn't like that. I didn't like that. What's happening in my body? I didn't like that, and my chest feels tight. I'm now associating that sense of, oh, yeah, didn't like that. My chest feels tight, bringing awareness to why my chest feels tight, maybe bringing some awareness to it, whether it's a deep breath or I'm just saying it out loud and I'm willing to just say that in that moment. Notice how you feel after that. Maybe your chest feels not as tight because you were able to get like say that and just notice it. A lot of times I'm sitting across from people and I'll ask them, yeah, I had a reaction to what you said, that what your friend told you. I wonder how that feels talking about it. And then they're like, yeah, my stomach feels a little queasy. I'm like wringing my hands. 10 minutes later, I asked, like, okay, so how's it feeling now? They're like, I actually feel a lot better. Like,
Mhm.
exactly. We're able to talk about it. You're able to sit with the feeling a little bit. We are so quick to notice discomfort and shove it away. When in reality, that discomfort really just needs some support to then be able to move to a place of just more ease. You're not saying like goodbye discomfort. I never want to feel that. But everything that comes up in a way, any unsupported reaction or feeling is just looking for support. That's
Mm.
it. That's it.
Yeah. So it's like we don't have to be so scared of being uncomfortable.
No, no, you don't.
And I think that in our society, like we've been kind of conditioned to believe that discomfort is bad. And
Hmm.
so we run from it. And I feel like that conditioning has actually exacerbated the
Hmm.
lack of nervous system regulation that
Hmm.
we're being faced with right now as like this human race, because for so long it's no, or like even, and like I know we can speak to this a lot just because of like our identity, but like always having to things to seem like they're okay. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Or being the
Hmm.
strong friend, or always having to kind of be that strong persona for people. Uh,
Hmm.
it's like you avoid being uncomfortable, or experiencing that, and then I mean ultimately like it comes back no matter what, one way
Precisely.
or another. Like,
Yeah, and like we're taught from a young age, like don't talk about this, don't talk about that, like don't bring it up in certain spaces, right? Things are seen as taboo, or even now, like living in this world, it's like what can I say out loud that won't get me either canceled or some like now FBI agent is knocking on my door. Like
yeah.
I'm just like, okay, I am just trying to bring awareness and conversation to certain dilemmas, if that's what we're being, if we want to be honest about that. And yeah, I think there's this easy like repression that is just forced onto all of us as this is like how things should be. Question that. If someone tells you this is the absolute way to do something, why? Why
Yeah.
is that? Like how, and honestly, like how does that feel for you? Like why would
Right.
you just take something on and swallow it like medicine?
Right.
How does that actually make sense for you to do? It may not. Question that. I always encourage people to question things. if that ideology fits for you, if you were raised a certain way, do you still believe that now? And it's totally, totally okay if you do. Just be able to have that conversation with yourself. Is this mine or is this a projection or an interjection rather? Someone else gave me these ideas and I'm taking them as my own.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just adding to that, like when you are taking on someone else's ideas as your own, your lack of like resonance or understanding around them is
Mhm.
again just like another thing that's going to exacerbate this like anxiety and
Yeah. Yeah.
regulation.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting about how we're all kind of like living in this cycle.
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
I feel like as you become more self-aware, as you become more able to set, some type of standard for you around like regulating your nervous system, there's also an opportunity, and maybe these things inform each other, but it also helps you to set boundaries. And I would say, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe setting boundaries helps you regulate your nervous system.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. That's a really good point. And I saw something on I will give credit to Instagram where when it makes sense. And I saw a really cool therapist I follow on Instagram who said like boundaries are not actually something that other people cross. Like you set the boundary and
Mm.
you maintain and hold the boundary. So boundaries related to like your safety or your nervous system, like that is on you. If you notice that someone is getting close to this boundary, even if you set it, it's still on you to allow it to get to that point where maybe they cross it, or they just brush right up against it. But yeah, I just had to say, I literally just saw this like 2 days ago, and I was like, ah, I'm
No,
thinking about this so differently now.
yeah, well, it does kind of turn it on its head in a way, right? And I
Hmm.
love it because it puts the responsibility back on you as the
Hmm.
individual. And I think that's
Hmm.
so important, especially in nervous system regulation, because when you allow the responsibilities like that to be of other people, you lose any semblance of like control that you have in
Hmm.
your own
Hmm.
life. And look, I'm a big believer of like there's certain things you can control and there's certain things that you
For
can't, and you
sure.
just gotta let go of what you can't. But to your point, it's like, no, but you do have the control over how people
Hmm.
cross
Hmm.
boundaries, because at some point, and I hate to use this word, but like you allowed it to happen, or you know
Hmm.
what I
Hmm.
mean? And so I think having that responsibility on ourselves, it's empowering in a way. If you
Yeah.
want it to be, it can be really, really empowering.
So, so true. Yeah. I think so often the conversation around boundaries, it's this person crossed my boundary. And I'm like, I hear you. And there's a certain point where like someone does just you I don't want to, yeah. Allow is such a tricky word here, but it's like they crossed it or you just allowed it to happen or you let it fall forward. And I think there are extremes of that, right? Of like what
Sure.
it means if someone were to cross a boundary. I'm definitely not talking about anything in the realms of like sexual assault in that area. But if
Oh,
I'm saying like I'll choose a simple one. My boundary is I don't invite me out past 9 p.m. or I
yeah.
won't be out of my house past
Yeah.
9 p.m. And someone decides to, or like, don't even come over to my house past 9 p.m. That's a better one. Someone comes over to my house after 9 p.m. and I open the door and I'm like, hey girl, like, what's up? You come in. I open the door. I
Yeah.
allowed that to happen. I
Yeah.
allowed that to, and now my sleep is disrupted. Now I'm feeling ill the next day because I didn't get my full like 8 hours of sleep or whatever. Um, that is a certain point where it's like you could have been firm and been like, hey, I told you I'm not gonna do XYZ. And the reason why is blah blah blah. And sometimes you don't even gotta give people the reason. I think a lot of times folks will over explain to justify how they are feeling. And that also can be like a almost like a response to like, hey, I am doing X this thing for this reason, and I just need you to really understand and respect it. Do we need people to understand to feel a certain way? I ask
Mm.
this question all the time. Is it important for your parent to understand why you don't want to talk to them about certain topics anymore? Or do you just need to not talk to them about certain topics? And that's it is what it is. And if they don't respect that line, then you could easily disengage, walk away. I understand that's hard. That's not like zero. It's not, you're not going to do that like today. That's like saying 0 to 60.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah. So
But
something to think about.
having that boundary for yourself and having the wherewithal to remain firm in your boundary, or even understanding what remaining firm in your boundary looks like.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I think
mm-hmm.
that's an important kind of conversation to have with yourself when you are setting a boundary of like,
Yeah.
this is what this boundary looks like.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, back in the day, you and my dear friend Jaylee started You Good Sis, which
Mm-hmm.
I loved and I know I benefited from in so many ways. But you started it as like a collective space, really geared towards Black and Brown kind of femmes.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to speak to kind of the nuanced conversation when we're talking about nervous system regulation, specifically with Black and Brown people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a really that's a really good point. I think, okay, so this is where systems of oppression come in, right? Like I think it is a reasonable anxiety reaction to have when you are driving and you see police headlights behind you.
Yeah.
I think it's a reasonable reaction to feel slighted when you're walking down the street and you see a white person who crosses the street as opposed to staying on the same side as you. I think these are all reasonable reactions because of the systems of oppression that have been put upon us. And allowed us, or not allowed us, but have ingrained into this thought that, or ingrained into us that we are scary, that we are dangerous, that we are unsafe people. Now, I can look into a mirror and tell myself that is not true. I'm not scary. I'm not dangerous. I'm not unsafe. Um, but there are years of oppression,
I,
of slavery, of colonialism, of imperialism that have set that course to be so. So when I think about nervous system regulation for Black and Brown people specifically, I it's a matter for me. Something I am still like figuring out. Like, what is mine to hold? What is mine to say like that? I cannot let this impact me any longer. And that is like years of work. That's probably
yeah.
going to be like my life thesis.
Yeah.
Um, when I have when I have Black and Brown clients, I'm not sitting there telling them like, yes, I know this sucks, but like breath work is the way to go. No, this shit sucks.
Yeah.
Life
Yeah.
is really hard right now, especially as minorities. You hold any type of oppressive identity, you're probably feeling all of these effects at any given moment.
Mhm.
So create those spaces that feel safe to you. My safe space is my home.
Mhm.
When I leave this space, there is no other safe space. I am in brave spaces. I am in spaces where I feel I could call attention to or call in folks. I'm never calling out because if I'm calling you out, then we're not in community. We're
Yeah.
not in. If I'm calling you in, that means I want to do this work with you.
Love that.
But being able to create a safe space of that is yours and yours alone, that you can control what is coming in and out. You can control whatever that looks like. My safe space is truly my kitchen. I'm cooking for myself. I'm feeling nourished. It feels good. My bed is my safe space. I'm so cozy. I have my little red light on. I have my like oils diffusing. Like that feels good. And then when
Yeah.
I leave my space, I'm in spaces where it feels I still feel comfortable, and if things were to shift a certain way, where the dynamic gets to a point where I'm like, oh, I'm no longer in my window of tolerance, I'm getting activated. How am I able to climb that ladder of being aroused or hyper aroused into that window of tolerance? Or if I'm noticing like, whoa, I'm so dysregulated, I'm not even here, like I'm frozen. Where are those spaces for me that I feel comfortable enough to do that and in a healthy way?
Mhm.
That is something I am encouraging a lot of Black and Brown folks to do. Like sitting with the feeling that this is our reality. It does suck. I'm not gonna lie. Like I wish I had a magic eraser, and this happens more often than I would like in my sessions. I wish I had a magic eraser just to be like, wipe that all away. It no
Yeah.
longer exists. Um, and uh, there's ever going to be a space for me to be like, here is the silver lining of the situation. No, I'm not going to put that like falsity on you. I want to sit in the reality, and I want to notice the dichotomy of like, this sucks, and I am so happy to be able to have my own space. This sucks, and I'm so glad I have community to ground myself in. This sucks, and I actually don't have to tap in today. I'm gonna tap out. I've done what I need to do. I've seen what I need to see. It's okay for me to watch Real Housewives of Atlanta and just like tune out for a little bit, get into some petty gossip. It's totally fine. If we're not able to kind of hold the both and this dialectical thinking, then again, going back into dysregulation or unregulated anxiety, this is where people are just constantly like, I have to worry about all the things, I have to do all the things, and if I do this, it impacts that. If I do this thing, then that other thing's gonna fall through. You have to be able to hold both.
Mhm.
This sucks, and this sucks, and I can handle this. This sucks, and I can still call my friend and kiki and like hang out and whatever. Being able to hold both of those. We're not going to change our reality by magical thinking. Oh, if we could, I would be in a flying car by now.
Oh my
I
God.
would be, I would have found the next Earth, whatever. I
Yeah.
would be gone. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I hear you. And I think too, like, it's not even also about disassociating or being disinterested. And
Hmm.
I think a lot of people sometimes think that is a response.
Hmm.
And, it's certainly not what you're saying. It's like there's this nuanced way that you kind of have to recognize the oppressiveness of
Hmm.
our collective experience as Black and Brown people and acknowledge it and hold space for it, but not let it become you, like to be in
Hmm.
it, but not of it, kind of. Um,
Hmm.
and, yeah, I think that's really important. And I really appreciate the way that you just kind of articulated that. And I will just say once more, like I felt like when you were doing You Good Sis with Jay Lee, I always felt so empowered in those spaces, and I found them to be really powerful because of the fact that it was a moment of collective care for
Hmm.
other people that looked just like me, in a way that hasn't been prioritized for us. And it was so nice that even though the two women who were hosting us and doing all of that for us were Black women, it still was so nice to not feel like I had to be the one to do that in that
Hmm.
moment or
Yeah,
care for
I know
anyone
exactly what you mean. Yes.
moment. Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah,
it was such an important thing that you guys did with You Good Sis.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
forever grateful for those spaces that you
Me
created.
too. Me too. Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Now, what would you say? You've kind of touched on a few of them, but what would you say like your kind of go-to practices are when you have those moments where you can recognize like you're getting
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, I think I will say this too. If I had never gone to grad school for counseling, I think I would still be a hot mess. And I honestly, I probably still am. I'm just like a hot mess with awareness. And I'll take that. So
We
I
all
think for
are.
me,
Yeah.
yeah. I think for me, it's definitely saying the thing out loud and like not letting it sit in me, being able to just get it out there. Like I do hold a lot of things in my body, and I'm just like, why do I feel so weird? Like there's only so much yoga and running can do for me. Like I actually have to have the conversation. Being able to be in regular community spaces is so, yeah, it is healing, and it like touches on a piece of for me of like connection and just feeling I can be myself. So when I'm in those spaces of just heightened anxiety or a nervous system dysregulation, being able to recognize it, to sit with it, to say it out loud with whoever is there with me and be like, yeah, I'm not going to do this, or I think this is what I need. And that's the other thing, like asking for what I need. I'm I think there was a point in time where I was afraid to ask or put my needs out there because I just thought no one could meet them. And in reality, the needs were so simple looking back on it. I just needed someone to hear me. Didn't necessarily need them to understand it. I just needed them to hear what was going on for me to say that. And 9 times out of 10, a lot of people can handle my needs in those moments. And if there are certain needs that I'm like, I only want to do this with this one person, like my partner, for instance, understood. I got that. That's totally fine. But yeah, being able to recognize what's going on for me in that moment, say it out loud. Sometimes doing a big deep breath in and out does help me, like almost, it's like as if the picture is um, foggy or unclear. And then I take a deep breath and it's like, okay, I can, it's the point is clear now. I'm no longer like disoriented and it feels a little bit more grounding. I can take a second to then make a decision of, do I say something? Do I not say something? Do I ask for help? Do I not ask for help? Like it, that usually is my go-to.
Mhm. I love that. Thank you for sharing those.
Yeah.
Um, would you, is there any advice that you would give to your younger self, like the Rachel that I met at the
Yeah.
training workshop?
Oh my gosh. I've been thinking about that version of myself actually a lot recently. So
Yeah.
that's so funny. Yeah. I think I would have told myself to slow down. Like I am definitely in this space now. Like I'm 30, I'm turning 31 in June, and I'm just like, wow, I was so like ready for something at such a young age, and I didn't really understand what I was chasing just to get here. Like,
Mhm.
why did I feel the need to rush? Why did I feel the need to do a bajillion things? Why did I feel the need to do a bajillion projects and tasks? In reality, I was just searching for a space to feel accepted, to be seen, to know that like how I was feeling was normal or other people were feeling it too. So just being able to slow down and just be like, take a second. What are you actually searching for? You're doing all these things for what? Like who, what, and who was I trying to prove in that moment? And now I feel like I'm in a space where I'm like, I can at least recognize if I'm doing a little bit too much, but I ask for help. Um, and I look at certain people that I might follow or I just know in my life, and I see them doing all these things. And I'm just like, I know they're probably tired because I was tired.
Yep.
And I'm no longer wanting to be tired. I want to have the energy to slow down. I want to feel like nourished. I want to feel rejuvenated. I want to feel like grounded and safe. So if I could tell my younger self that, I would sit them down and be like, you gotta chill. And you know what? They would tell me like, no.
Never. I already know. I was like,
Yeah,
couldn't be her.
they would not. They would not. She would be like, "You're
Couldn't be that Rach.
crazy. Like, what are you talking about?" And you know what? It's okay because I think I had to do that to get
Yeah,
here.
sure.
Um, and that is beautiful. Like, I wouldn't change anything about my journey, even all of like the missteps or some of the mistakes I made, or honestly, a lot of mistakes I made. I wouldn't actually change any of it because it did lead me to this exact moment. As cliche as that sounds, like that's just what it is.
Yeah, no, I think that's so amazing. I really do.
Yeah.
I think that, when we can get to that point in our lives where we can be grateful for every experience we've had, the ups, the downs, the good, the bad, because it brought us to the moment that we're in, it's like new level unlocked. You know what I
Yep.
mean? There's,
Yep.
you can just kind of access more and understand a little more about life. So
Yeah.
I very much so appreciate that. And I very much so appreciate you like making time
Yeah.
for me and this conversation. First of all, you are so busy, you're doing so many things, but I really do feel like this conversation is an important one to not just have
Yeah.
today, but to kind of keep having and to gain awareness around. And like this
Hmm.
month of podcast episodes has been all about personal growth.
Yeah.
And I think that understanding is something that can be really key to our personal growth. So I
Hmm.
hope that, folks will gain a lot from this. I know I certainly have. And just like having this conversation was good for my nervous system. So thank you.
Yeah. Good.
um, but before I totally let you go, I just want to ask if there's any way that the collective like can support you, if there's a way to connect with you, if
Oh,
there's
that's so
anything
sweet.
that
Yeah.
you want to put out there like that.
Yeah, for sure. Folks can always follow me on my Instagram. It's just at Rach Does It All because
She does.
Do it all.
Because she does.
Yes, and then I have actually a Substack called Twice as Good.
Yeah.
It's been on a little bit of hiatus, but it's coming back. I finished up my last term of grad school, so I wanted to document that. So like 12
Congrats.
weeks to graduation and like all the tips and tricks and things I've learned. So that will be slowly coming back out again. It's free to subscribe. I've gone back and forth. I'm like, oh, do I want to do a paid tier or not? I'm like, no, mental health knowledge should just be free. So yeah, that it's
And
free
it's
for
a
the people.
10 out
Yeah,
of
thank
10 would
you.
recommend. Great
Thank
articles on
you.
there. And you
Appreciate
said
it.
you finished your last semester of grad school.
I
Congratulations.
will be. I will be
Okay.
in June.
Okay.
Yes.
You'll be in
Yeah.
June. So what
Mhm.
is next for you?
Yes. Taking a nice little break. I will be joining a group practice as a licensed therapist, or excuse me, associate. I'm super excited.
Amazing.
And yeah, so I will be taking like a 6 week break or so after I graduate in June. Hit the ground running. But I'm really honestly just excited to like only focus on one thing for a little bit. And that's just being a therapist
Yeah.
and like just enjoying life. But I'm letting the cards reveal it to me in time. Like I'll just see what comes my way, but I'm not trying to force anything. I just want to see what naturally kind of fits and falls in line and like going to community events, talking with people and seeing what naturally comes from that. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yay, that is so beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Congratulations,
thank
honestly,
you.
on this journey that you've been on and,
Yeah.
you know, coming down the home stretch with
Hmm.
this program and just like all the work you've done. I feel like this next chapter for you is going to be such an incredible culmination of
Thank
all
you.
the work that you've done until this point. And I will just tell you right now, anybody who gets to work with you is so lucky. And
No, thank
yeah,
you.
I'm happy for them.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for you. And I'm so grateful, Rach. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for making time. I really, really, really enjoyed the
Anytime.
conversation.
Anything for you. Oh my
Oh,
gosh. Literally anything.
love
Yeah.
it.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. I know that I really, really enjoyed recording it. Honestly, I could have talked to Rach forever. Um, it was such a great time, and I know that she is going to be an incredible, incredible therapist. And the people that are working with her right now are so lucky, and the people that will work with her in the future are so lucky. I know that I am so lucky to know her. Truly, truly. I feel so grateful for that. So thank you, Rach, for giving us your time and your expertise. We are also grateful and truly wish you the best of luck as you continue on. I know that we'll all be rooting for you. We'll all be following along on your Substack. And thank you for that too, because that is just like such a little gem. Okay, that's the episode. I'll give you guys a quick astrology update. Let's look actually at the chart. Trying not to do this too noisily. I'm learning. I'm learning. Okay, like I can't be like shaking the mic around, which is hard for a girl who's half Sicilian. Okay, we use with our hands to talk. Wait till next week's episode. Two Italian girls chatting, trying not to make noise with their hands. You guys are gonna enjoy that one too. Okay, so this week we've got, let's see. So there's a full moon in Libra coming. Um, there is a full moon in Libra coming on. Why don't I prepare more of this information in advance? Sunday. Sunday? Friday. There is a full today. Jesus Christ. That's the day this episode is coming out. I really gotta get better. I really gotta get these astrology updates on point for you guys. And I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna stop doing this thing where I just read the chart and I'm gonna start putting some info together for you guys. But there's a full moon in Libra. Happy full moon in Libra, guys. What the hell are you guys getting up to for this full moon? You know what? This full moon, especially thinking about where this full moon is, I would say that, I mean, it's Libra, right? So it's definitely the focus is balance. And, we always like to release in a full moon. So I would definitely say let's release some of those things that aren't aren't allowing us to have balance. You know what I mean? If it's too much of something, too much of the other. Libra's ruled by Venus, and so she's always going to pull focus to relationships, partnerships, money. The Libra side is less about money and more about beauty, but still, it's Venus all the way. And speaking of Venus, Venus is about to station retrograde. Yeah, Venus is going to station retrograde by Sunday. I mean, station direct by Sunday. She's retrograde in Pisces right now. Oh, that's so sweet. She's going to be direct in Pisces come Sunday. Now, I will say she is conjunct Saturn. So, there's a more serious tone to this for sure, but Venus is ruling this conjunction right now. Venus is absolutely ruling this conjunction because Venus is exalted in Pisces. And yeah, and Saturn is actually exalted in Libra, which is funny because that's where the full moon is. Um, and the full moon is, yeah, very interesting. So, that being said, the fact that Venus is stationing direct on Sunday ish, and we have this full moon cycle starting tomorrow or today, when you guys are listening to this, the 11th, Friday, February, April 11th. I would say this full moon, I mean, the full moon's ruler is stationing direct. This is going to bring a lot of clarity. This is going to bring a lot of clarity in our relationships, hopefully in our finances. I know I could use some clarity there. Yeah, I'm excited for this. This is a nice weekend. I think we have a nice lineup. Same time, because we've had Mars in Cancer forever. Mars must be getting ready to move out of Cancer. Oh, Mars is going to be in Leo by next week, by next Thursday-ish. Yeah. Ooh, that's gonna be so fun. We'll talk about more Mars and Leo next week since that's coming. And Taurus season is starting next weekend. Oh, guys. It's about to be fun up here. It's about to be fun up in here. Because Venus is feeling good. Taurus season's about to start. Mars is in Leo. Spicy. Mars does get a little spicy and a little fun in Leo. And you know what the nice thing about Mars and Leo is? It's very focused on courage and confidence and putting yourself out there. It's a great time to fall in love. I just want to say that. I just want to say, like, it feels like love is in the air. Why not? I'm calling it. I'm claiming it. Let's speak on it. I love this for us. All right, guys. I love you guys so much. Thank you for listening. If you think of it, if you think of someone who might really need this episode or appreciate what we talked about today, please share. I'm begging you. I really am. I don't beg for much. I'm asking for this. Okay, I gotta go because I know this episode is long. Have a great day. I love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Ease in Real Life. If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe. Please leave a review or share it with a friend who might need a little more ease in their life. Remember, creating ease is a choice we make every day, even in the hard moments. I'll chat with you next time, and until then, take care of yourself and each other.